This is day one of the ANC's 5th National Policy Conference, and we're talking to the Secretary General of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe. Thank you very much once again for being with us. Let's now start to break down kind of what's going to happen over the next 2 days. And we've started by talking about party unity being key, and that the first 2 days in particular, people have an opportunity to thrash out some of those issues. August elections last year, is that going to come up as a discussion? What went wrong and what can we fix?
The next 2 days, there are 4 presentations. Basically, the president will open, then there will be presentations which diagnose problems facing the ANC. Obviously, if it doesn't touch to August 2016 elections, it will not be an honest diagnosis. It will have to touch on that matter. If it doesn't talk on state capture, it will not be an honest diagnosis. If it doesn't talk on infighting and factions, it will not be an honest diagnosis. It will go on everything. And then that debate will be introducing 2 critical papers. The first one is one on organizational renewal, and the second one is a strategy and tactics, which gave us a vision for the ANC, revised all the time. Now, then we'll have a paper on the National Development Plan. And those papers will be the basis for the 2 days. They will be debated at plenary, taken to commissions. People say anything and everything they want to say about the strengths and weaknesses of the ANC. That is the issue. That is the 2 days.
What then comes out of that? So you discuss state capture, people say what they need to say. What then do you do with it?
We will look into the resolutions taken by the various commissions and see what there will be issues that we do before December. Serious long-term resolution will go to the December conference. But there are things that can't wait for December. We'll have to work very hard between now and December. Unity will be the major issue, and we must invest on all those issues so that December conference itself must be a success.
So let's talk about a bit more on these, the state capture story, Gupta emails and so on and so forth. There are some quite damning things that have come through in there. Yes. And people are talking about a commission of inquiry and so on and so forth, but that could be a lengthy process. Do you have time for a lengthy process?
It's a necessary process because you don't deal with complex problems unless you make an effort to establish truth from facts. Otherwise, you follow emotion and you can hurt many people on information that has not been tested. And that's why that commission of inquiry is urgent. What we should be working hard on is that it is established as soon as yesterday. And then it starts its work. People must have that avenue. People must go and explain themselves. And we must establish truth from facts. Otherwise, if we take a shortcut because we think it is expedient, we are more to cause more and more harm.
Policies, and again, something that I touched on with Jeff Khadebe earlier on, the ANC has never really been accused of having poor policies, but implementing them has been the challenge. What's going to be different this time around?
Can I tell you, Peter? I always hear this story of no implementation, but progress that we're making is evidence against that. It's, development is an irrefutable argument. You can't refute that there are houses that are built. You can't refute that more and more of our people have access to electricity and water. You can't refute that number of university students that are black has gone fourfold. And then we come and say we're not implementing. When we talk of black middle class bulge, it's progress. So development is an irrefutable argument. And therefore, when people say you're not implementing, yes, there may be areas that we're lagging behind, which we must look. That's why we have a policy conference today that we're weak in that area, then we must continue. For example, we talk of radical socio-economic transformation. The reality of the matter, it is more the economic aspect that was slow. On the transformation socially, we've done many things that actually indicate that we're serious about it. The first phase itself was very radical. you see you have an enemy well overpowered without being defeated, and prospects of military defeat very remote. That is radical. You deliver the basic services that you say at a rate and a pace that we have done. That is very radical. But on the economic side, we're quite cautious at the beginning, because in the first cabinet of Madiba, all the economic portfolios were given to the Nationalist Party, because the world at the time was suspicious of an ANC that is influenced by communists. And we became overly conscious. And radical economic transformation is a commitment to say time is now to begin timber with that area that we've been conscious about.
Well, let's talk about economic policy, because again, you know, we're trying to make sense of who's in charge. Is it the ANC or is it government? Because you get situations like a mines minister issues a statement, this is the new mining charter, and then you start to hear other ministers, other leaders saying, no, we need to pull back, we need to go back to the discussion table. Is there a disconnect between the party and government over certain policies?
No, the ANC set policies. The government developed the nuts and bolts and
so then how does that happen that the mines minister...
Let me tell you what happened. Yeah. There is nobody who disagrees in the ANC that we need to accelerate transformation in the mining industry. We all agree. There may be caution on riding roughshod over the industry and run a risk of actually collapsing it and weakening it. And that caution is necessary. That's why when you have that kind of a caution, it helps you never to go over the cliff. But on the essence and the purpose of transforming the mining industry, there is no disagreement. We may have squabbles about, did you consult enough, did you talk to the relevant stakeholders and all those. But on the need and necessity, there's no disagreement.
All right, so again, some of the issues with scoring own goals, like getting into junk status, that was preventable. And yet we take decisions, make announcements that scare the credit rating agencies. Is that something that you will be considering?
Rating agencies must not ever be scared. They must rate a country on the work it is doing. What we should be doing, we should be tightening our work, because we should not work for rating agencies. We must do our work, and rating agencies come and rate us on the work we're doing. If we do the right things, we will come out of the junk status. If we are reckless and adventurous, we'll actually go sink deeper into the junk status. And that message is going to come through here. What should we do? What should we be saying? If we make reckless statements, you may not be aware, you may think that you're just addressing a rally, and that address to a rally that is reckless reverberate all over and scares investors out of their booths, and we run into problems.
Is this not a product of this leadership race that's already in play now, and this factionalism that we are recognizing as well?
The race will be there every 5 years. That is as sure as the sun comes from the east to the west. So I don't think it should mean every 5 years we'll destroy the country and the economy and hope to rebuild it. And when we're halfway of rebuilding it, the next conference arrives, we will destroy it further. It can't be logical. People will have to be made to understand that conference or no conference, you must be responsible. You are a governing party, you are a responsible movement, and do your work appropriately. And the purpose of this first 2-day session is to drive those messages home. The success in driving those messages home is a different matter.
But SG, there seems to be no consequences. You say you don't pronounce on leaders' names, people pronounce, and then nothing happens.
Now, you see, I know sometimes when people say there are no consequences, they take discipline as a stick. And I always take discipline as corrective measures. Calling people in, tell them, don't do X, Y, and Z. That's where it starts. And when you do that, you don't call a media briefing. You explain to people that, listen, we said we must discuss principles, it went quiet, and some people broke the ranks and pronounced. We say you can discuss the names against the principals, but nomination will be opened in September. Now, when that happens, and people begin to pronounce, actually, they're committing two mistakes. The first mistake is that they're hurting the people they throw up early, because they get criticized publicly that so-and-so is not fit for this, so-and-so is not fit for that. You are hurting those comrades. And number two, it displays your ill-discipline, and people will move away from you if you're ill-disciplined. What doesn't help, though, is when our allies, COSATU, affiliates outside of the ANC, makes pronouncement and trigger panic in some of the structures of the ANC, because they have not under the jurisdiction of the ANC, because it will require our allies to be responsive as well and understand that their action will translate into reaction. For example, when a youth league go and pronounce, and you say, but comrades, please don't pronounce, but COSATU is pronouncing and even running a campaign. How do you deal with that issue? So the discipline of the broader alliance is important for us to have an orderly process.
Does that speak to losing control? Are you still in control, SG?
It's in control. One of the things that I never lose is control. I can assure you of that. It's not losing control, but it's about managing a very dynamic situation. Because if you think that you can manage a dynamic situation by being rigid, you are going to crack yourself. That's why you're going to lose control. But when you manage it and engage the processes, you are more likely to come out better.
All right, so perhaps finally, there are many people who vote for the ANC, want to vote for the ANC, that are not delegates, that are not card-carrying members, that are wanting to see something come out of here. How are you going to convince them to stay loyal and to vote for you in 2019? What's going to come out of here that's going to say, we hear you, and this is what we're going to do?
If we're hearing them, they will see the actions. I'm sure they're beginning to see those actions. Whether we say you can willy-nilly reinstate a CEO in ESCOM, or you will correct the situation in SABC, or will not just announce reshuffle willy-nilly. And as you do those things, you are communicating to society that we are hard at work, correcting our mistakes, reconnecting the ANC to society.
Do you have enough time?
Time is never enough. Correction is never enough. That's why the Japanese talk of continuous improvement. It's because it's never enough.
Okay, SG, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for your insights. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again during the next 6 days.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so that was the Secretary General of the ANC sharing his thoughts with us just as this fifth National Policy Conference gets underway, and no doubt we'll be chatting again in the next couple of days. Let's go back to Johannesburg. Palesa?